Avoid these players like the plague. I've got 4 players here who've performed well recently, but I'm here to tell you it's a trap. Do not buy them this week without watching this video. Welcome to FPL Sucks, the best worst manager you've ever seen. Here first with a quick disclaimer.
These recommendations are backed by hardcore data. If I tell you to avoid a player and they score, or to buy a player and they get a red card, don't come back crying, oh, but you said to do this, wow. I ain't gonna listen. I'm right more times than I'm wrong because I recommend what's best on paper. But of course, as legendary manager Brian Clough once said, FPL isn't played on paper, it's played on your phone when taking a dump. A wise man, ahead of his time.
So now that's out of the way, I'm going to move on to trap number 1, Victor Gyökeres. Now, how can you say he's a trap? In the league, he hasn't performed well, and that's true. But his Champions League performance against Atletico Madrid, he was all over the place in a good way and netted 2 goals to his name. So can he move his Champions League form into the Premier League? Well, let's have a look. Obviously, he's a nailed-on starter, playing pretty much 90 minutes each game. And yes, his next game weeks coming up are very attractive indeed. Crystal Palace, Burnley, Sunderland, and Spurs. But let's remind ourselves what happened the last 4 game weeks where he didn't contribute to a goal at all. No assist, no goals. And why is that? He played Fulham, West Ham, Newcastle, and Man City. Yeah, right, okay, Man City, we can discount that, whatever. But let's just have a look at the figures he's pulling in. He's averaged about 8.5 penalty touches in those last 4 games and has contributed nothing. What has he been doing in those games? He gets the ball and just whacks it out of play. Like, oh yeah, well done, Victor. Yeah, if in doubt, kick it out. Yeah, good lad, good lad. And seriously, his performances have not warranted his price tag when he's only averaged an expected goal involvement of 0.4 in those last 4 games. And he's £9 million. And let's say you were convinced by his Atletico Madrid performance in the Champions League and you want to bring him in. How are you going to realistically bring him in? At £9 million, what, you're going to have to sell a midfielder, sell a forward, that's 2 transfers just to bring in Gyökeres, or you sell Haaland, who's well outperforming Gyökeres. If you compare Gyökeres's season-to-date figures, his expected goal involvement and his actual goal involvement, he underperforms against all the other forwards in FPL. He is just not a good option at this point in time. And if you are buying him just because of his upcoming fixtures, you're just doing so with your fingers crossed, hoping just because the team Arsenal will play against is below them in the league. That means Gyökeres, he's going to score. I'm going to channel my inner Biff from Back to the Future knocking on your head. Hello? Think, McFly. Arsenal are top of the league. Every team is below them. And in the 8 Premier League games he's featured in so far, he's only scored in 2 of those games. Now, this isn't me closing the book on Gyökeres forever. If he can bring his Champions League form into the Premier League and become more consistent, then that obviously changes things. But as it stands, the effort to bring him in at £9 million, it's just not worth it. Yet over 20% of managers out there have him in their teams. I mean, I hope it works out. I hope he really finds his form in the Premier League after this game and he becomes an option for everybody going forward. It will make things way more interesting. But do not bring him in just hoping just because his fixtures look good that he's going to absolutely storm it. For his price tag, there are better options out there. Right, now on to trap number 2. And before I do, please do remember to like and subscribe to this channel if you've enjoyed this video so far. So, who is the second trap? Mateta. What? How is Mateta a trap? Yeah, he scored a hat-trick in the last game. Prior to that, he hasn't really been a prolific goal scorer. Previously, he only scored 2 goals, I think, so he's on 5 goals in total at the moment in the Premier League, which, you know, out of 8 appearances sounds great, but if one of those is being a hat-trick, it doesn't necessarily ring consistency now, does it? If we look at his figures, he does outperform in terms of expected goal involvement, but his actual goal involvement is dropping off. So he's not a terrible option to get, but just know that he's not finishing his chances. So whilst he's not 100% a trap, the next game is against Arsenal. I wouldn't recommend bringing him in for this game. Wait a week and look again to see how he performs against tougher oppositions before bringing him in, perhaps for Brentford, Brighton and Wolves, who he has after Arsenal. Next, the third trap. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce his name. Mukiele. Oh, God. Please let me know in the comments if I've butchered his name. I'm sure I have. Mukiele. Now, I'm probably being a little bit too harsh here because he is such a cheap option to buy. You can just buy him and whack him in your bench. But do not be blinded just because he scored a goal against Wolves. His only goal involvement so far this season out of 8 games. He is a nailed-on starter for Sunderland and he can get a clean sheet here and there. So not a terrible option if we're being honest. But his next 4 game weeks, Chelsea, Everton, Arsenal, Fulham, these are teams which can definitely score, well, maybe not so much Fulham, but Chelsea, Everton and Arsenal can definitely score goals and punish teams if they're not 100%. So he's definitely a risk if you're planning on bringing him in and adding him to your starting lineup. But if you want to just put him on your bench, then that's not a terrible option too. However, his price is rising. So just be wary of that and think, is he worth bringing him in just to keep him on the bench for majority of times when I'm getting him in now more expensive than he actually should be? Now, final trap, number 4, Pedro Neto. Yeah, 2 goal involvements in the last game. I believe a goal and assist. But, come on, if I'm being harsh here, I'm going to discount them just because it was against a really poor Forest side. Recently, his minutes have been waning and his overall stats for a player who's worth £7 million, I just believe there are slightly better options out there. If we can compare him to maybe the average midfielder in the game, he does outperform in terms of expected goal involvements and actual goal involvements. And his output the last 4 game weeks has gradually crept up in comparison to how he's performed throughout the whole season. So why is he a trap to avoid? Just because his overall output for his price at 7 million just hasn't been worth it for me. I think there are definitely better options out there to purchase. For me, if I was looking to bring someone in around about £7 million, I would actually drop down. I would probably recommend you going for Sarr from Crystal Palace instead, even though his next game is against Arsenal. For me, he's a better long-term pick and a differential too, and a nailed-on starter each week, whereas Pedro Neto recently are not 100% confident if he's going to perhaps start or play long enough to really be that impactful going forwards. So if you want to be safe, I'll probably just avoid Pedro Neto and long-term think about someone like Sarr. And whilst we're talking about potential replacements for these traps, who should we buy? Well, that video will be released after this video, so subscribe now and turn on notifications to not miss it. Thanks very much for watching. I hope this video has been educational. I hope it stopped you from making a terrible mistake and you end up in the top 100k, which is my goal this season, to be a top 1% manager. Go forth with knowledge, peace and love, and I'll catch you in that next video. This has been FPL Sucks. Ciao, ciao.